Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. You already win future points basically by being here, so you get a jump on all the other folk who haven't turned up. So I'm going to talk you through today a little bit about how to start taking the first steps into the metaverse. Also about why you should. The benefits of it, the role it will have in hospitality, and also a bit about kind of understanding the space, the jargon, what it actually is, when it's appearing, etc. So my quick kind of intro to me, I've been involved in digital tech since 1998. I've started and sold a couple of tech companies. Since 2013, I've been working in the kind of a Venn diagram between interior design and home decor and technology. So I've started a online marketplace for wallpapers and fabrics, still going very successfully today. Superdwell, we started about 18 months ago, and I recently set up an AI interior design business as well. So that meeting place between technology and interiors and architecture is kind of where my kind of skill set lies. So with Superdwell, we're building VR, virtual reality, alternate reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality spaces for a range of interior design and architecture clients. And we're also in the process of creating a VR hub, which will pull all of these brands together. A lot of what I do with Superdwell as well is talking to people, kind of education, because there's a lot of changing technology in the space, a lot of misunderstanding, some cynicism appearing, so it's helping people navigate through that. And today I'm going to talk a bit about what the metaverse is, why it's important, not dwell on too many stats, because there are a lot out there about how big it will be in X number of years, but today I want to land more the kind of the emotional reasons that it's worth starting to understand and engage with. First thing is to kind of really just slightly kill this word off, and then I'm going to talk about it anyway, but just to drill into some of the different perceptions people have of what metaverse means. So most of which are partly correct and partly incorrect. So the first thing when people think of metaverse is they will often think of like a full 3D virtual world, Ready Player One style, that you go into, possibly VR goggles on, and you lose yourself within it. That's the most common expression of the metaverse, but that's only one small element of where it will be in the future. People also assume that a metaverse equals VR. So the Meta Quest goggles, Oculus Quest as they were, the most common piece of hardware for that space. The metaverse and VR are actually separate technologies, but VR goggles give great access to it, so the two can exist separately. The third thing is gaming. So anyone here who has kids, sort of 8, 9, 10 plus, Fortnite, Roblox are the big kind of gaming environments they go to. They are often described as metaverses, and then people often assume that all metaverse activity is just gaming. Again, like life, gaming is a part of the metaverse, but it's not the only element of it. Then we come to kind of augmented reality. So whether that's through a mobile phone with something like Pokemon Go, or whether it's through augmentation using AR goggles. Again, that's an element of the metaverse, but it's not the only part of it. And the final thing that always comes up in everything to do with the metaverse is cryptocurrency. I kind of see cryptocurrency a bit like I will view my daughter's first boyfriend, which is a dalliance which is kind of best forgotten and we should all get over quite quickly, because the crypto and the metaverse grew at the same time, but they actually have, the crypto does not currently bring any real benefit to the metaverse, and the metaverse can grow and succeed without it. And the problem with crypto is it comes with such a closed community of jargon, technologies, a lot of misunderstanding, that people tend to conflate the two and then be put off from engaging with metaverse technologies. So when you kind of take the sum of all of those technologies together, step back from the noise and actually sort of analyze what people mean when they say the metaverse. What we're really talking about is experiencing the internet in 3 dimensions. So dimensionalizing our experience from being just tapping at a phone, typing on a keyboard, into experiencing the content, the brands, the everyday life in 3 dimensions. And that can be virtual, it can be augmented, but it's always dimensionalized. The second thing is about it being social and synchronous. So a lot of the experience you have at the moment online, you're actually doing alongside other people. If you visit a booking website, there will be other people there, you just don't know it. What the metaverse allows for is for that experience to become synchronous, so you can actually be aware of other people being there, and there can be benefits from creating kind of social connections at that particular juncture. The other really important thing with the metaverse, especially right now when we're slightly into a dip of belief in its future, is it is the future of interactive experience. If you look at all of the strategies, all of the comments, all of the vision of every single leading tech company, whether it's Apple, Meta, Samsung, whoever it might be, they all believe the future of interactive experience will be dimensionalized. So within, I'll come on to a bit timelines, but let's say 5 to 10 years, instead of tapping like this to do things, we will be using headsets to deliver the same kind of experience. Every single tech player is developing the hardware to do that. The arguments are really just about what the experience will look like and how deep it will go, and I'll come onto that more. And to give you some sense of the potential scale of it, if you look at kind of the growth projections for the space, most kind of predict about this figure of about $1 trillion, just $1 trillion of value by the end of this decade, and that's based upon hardware and software sales purely. What McKinsey have done quite cleverly is look at the impact of these technologies on everything else we do. So not just will people buy headsets, will they download new software, but actually how will it impact entertainment, travel, shopping, our everyday life. And on that basis, they see a huge amount of additional value being unlocked. And it's not just me, one guy here saying this. There are also some people with quite big reputations who believe this. So Tim Cook, who is a guy who says he does not believe in the word metaverse. He's absolutely against it. He says no one understands it. And yet he still says this is a profound technology that we will look back at and wonder how we live without it. A bit like as we do with the internet now. We kind of go, God, 20 years ago, how were we doing X, Y, Z? How did we manage to book things, buy things, find things, understand things? So this technology, as it appears in the next 5 to 10 years, will have that same kind of impact. So the argument really is in the will it, won't it, how big will it be, how important will it be? The argument really is just this slider, which is, will it be full virtual reality that we use, or will it be augmented reality, which is just overlaid on our current existence, the real world, or will it be some kind of mixed reality format? My view personally is that it will be a combination of all 3, depending on what you're doing. The same as if there's some activities you can do on your phone successfully, there's some you need a desktop computer for. Same for the metaverse as it develops. Some you will want to do in full virtual reality, some you will do just in augmented reality. But right now, I don't know if anyone is familiar with this chart. It's been knocking about since about 2000 during the original dot-com bust. And every technology follows this pattern, which is, it appears, everyone goes, oh my God, mind blown. This is the future, it's incredible. The world's about to change. The world doesn't change overnight. And everyone turns around and goes, oh, this thing, it will never take off. It was always misunderstood. It's not got mainstream adoption. Let's just ignore it. And then slowly the technology builds up again until it actually has a valuable role in the everyday life. Right now, the metaverse is, way down here. Pretty much since the crypto crash last year brought the metaverse down with it. I don't know if you followed the news about Meta, Facebook as was, but they've been laying off the team that was working on this. So there's a lot of kind of negative news about it, driven by kind of economic problems. But this always happens. Go back not that many years, 23 years. Daily Mail headline, "Internet is a passing fad." There was a very similar headline just a few months ago, which was "VR is a passing fad." This headline actually came out the same month that Google moved from their garage to their first office. So this is the moment when these headlines come out. This is the moment when you want to start really understanding and developing your knowledge in the space. And I kind of call this the tin can conundrum, because every technology goes through this phase. First of all, the hardware appears. In this case, let's call it the tin can, and everyone gets very, very excited by it, but finds it as particularly utilizable, same as the tin can was. You couldn't open it easily. It was only used for military purposes, and the hype dies down until someone invents the tin can opener, in the case of the tin can 50 years later, and then suddenly mainstream adoption happens overnight. We saw it with the mobile internet. It was knocking around for years, 2000 to 2007. I used to work a lot with Nokia. They said the mobile internet was a business tool only, and that nobody would ever want a touchscreen phone because they wanted a keyboard to send their emails on. And they never viewed the mobile internet as being a mainstream consumer tool. iPhone launched. Within 2 years, Nokia was dead. Apple had taken over, the biggest tech company in the world. The mobile internet had exploded. It looked like from nowhere, but it was actually off the back of about 10 years of development. Same with AI. I'm guessing that everyone has been following the news about ChatGPT, maybe been using it. It has absolutely exploded in this last kind of few months. The technology behind ChatGPT, the language model that drives it, actually been available kind of in its current form for a couple of years. But what OpenAI did very cleverly was they created a conversational interface for it that acted like that tin opener, unlocked the whole space for mainstream adoption. That will happen too for the metaverse. The question everyone has is, what will the tin opener be? The big thing that everyone's been expecting is that the Apple headset launching later this year will be the thing that suddenly unlocks the whole space. But I have my doubts, because usually the technology that unlocks a space is not, doesn't come from an expected source. And just to give you some idea of the speed things are moving at, when I gave this presentation at Spring Fair in Birmingham about 6 weeks ago. Just before that presentation, HTC launched the first VR headset that performed like a pair of glasses, as in you could fold them up, slip them in your pocket, put them away, versus the Oculus, which is kind of like wearing kind of the Pillsbury Doughboy on your face, kind of a giant piece of technology. And then I had to submit this presentation 1 week ago to these guys, and in that week since, Xiaomi have announced a VR headset that does AR and VR combined. So when you're in VR mode, the glasses go black, and when you want to go into AR mode, they go into the opaqueness drops again, and they're about the same size as normal spectacles as well. And just before I finished this presentation, this happened. So a company called Big Screen VR, small player, no one had really heard of them before, launched this headset. To give you some, this is life-size scale versus the Oculus. Again, it's as big as a pair of, kind of normal sunglasses. So the speed of development in this space is just mind-blowing at the moment. Another new development this week, On Cyber launched the first text to 3D VR world using AI. So if you want to build your VR environment, you can just type, I'd like hills in the background, sandy beach here, and it gets built and it's fully interactive. So going back to this tin opener and when it will happen, I can't say. I expect within 6 months to a year, but when it happens, everyone will go, oh, yeah, we knew that was coming, of course. Of course, of course. And in fact, everyone right now is kind of saying the opposite. So be ready. My kind of message today is start to learn, be ready, gather knowledge, gather experience. So when this happens, you can just go, boom, be at the front of it. The other important thing to remember about the metaverse is everyone says, oh, it's not here yet. And that all depends on your perspective. If you game a lot, if you're in kind of an entertainment world, the metaverse is here now. About 20% of all revenue in gaming is driven by metaverse and VR. And it's growing fast. It is already the mainstream in gaming. Same for enterprise. If you are involved in, for instance, automobile design, Volvo are a big player in this. If you're involved in large architectural projects, VR and the metaverse is already built into the design processes. It's part of everyday working experience, and it's not yet filtered down to smaller projects, but it will do. So it's only really in the kind of everyday consumer life where it hasn't yet taken hold. And I kind of think that's probably like a 5-year play. So think of it like a kind of, it's a pyramid basically, and the technology is coming down slowly from larger scale projects, but it will reach everyday life. And I kind of think this means there's approximately, like, let's say a 3-year window of opportunity where you can learn, you can experiment, you can make some mistakes. If you're a smaller player, a smaller brand, a smaller technology company, you can make a big difference. After that, it will become mainstream, and therefore it's going to be harder to gather knowledge without having to fight off everyone else who's trying to do it. And the one thing, I actually met up yesterday with the president of the British Institute of Interior Design. I'm giving this presentation to all these kind of online forum soon. And he kind of just said, but why? Like, it's hard enough, websites, online sales have been difficult enough. Then we've had to get our head around mobile internet, social media. Just about most companies are now kind of on top of it-ish, maybe, there or thereabouts. So why do we now need to basically reinvent everything again? Well, the benefits of this dimensionalization of the internet are absolutely insanely good, which is why everyone is motoring towards it. I obviously don't know exactly what you will do, but let's assume you are involved in hotels, restaurants, hospitality in some form, in which case you spend your whole time creating an incredible dimensionalized experience. So whether you're designing a hotel, creating a restaurant menu, creating spa experiences, the whole thinking is driven by how can we make this a fully cohesive, holistic, dimensionalized experience that wows our customer when they turn up. And then you have to market it through this. A flat, 2D, desktop or mobile internet experience. And everything we do when marketing is about trying to re-dimensionalize. So thinking about, say, the experience of something like booking.com, plus 48 photos you can look through, reviews, explanations of what's in each room of the hotel you're booking. The whole drive of all that content is about how can you're trying to drive the dimensionalization into the customer's head so they can just about maybe imagine what the experience will be like, and because of that, hopefully they'll book. The metaverse, a dimensionalized internet, fixes that. It gives people a way of experiencing your product or your brand or your location, your setting, before they are actually there, and you can actually improve the understanding, the conversion, etc. There's lots of studies into this. This one I've picked up on is based upon training in medical environments, and they all say the same thing, which is when people do things in virtual environments, whether it's augmented or virtual reality, the effectiveness and the efficacy of it is about 3 times just watching things on a 2D screen. And that's because once you're in a 3D environment, your spatial brain is engaged. So you're not just using your eyes to just, you know, compute what's in front of you. You're kind of building up 3D worlds in your brain and thinking about how you move around them. And I'm sure if anyone has seen these kind of slapstick videos of people playing VR games and then running into a wall, or karate kicking their TV or whatever, it looks hilarious, but that's what's happening. It's like your brain isn't going, oh, I'm in VR, so it's not real. Your brain is going, oh, this is 100% real. My brain is fully engaged. And this has a huge impact on how you can actually market and sell and promote within the space. Second super important thing with dimensionalized internet is that if you do things with other people, they are more intense. So tapping away at your computer on your own is a much thinner experience than if you are in a virtual space that feels real to you with other people there communicating and interacting with you. And finally, it solves perhaps one of the biggest problems with marketing and retailing and selling in a digital world, which is this imagination gap, which is the biggest problem most people have when making a decision, when they're buying or purchasing something online, which is, will it work in my world or will I work in that world? And they have to then imagine that kind of leap from this 2D world they're looking at into the dimensionalized world. Again, VR fixes that, because you are making the decision already within the world where either you might say if you were buying a product like a chair, you can put it in your home, or if you were buying an experience like a holiday, you could actually go to the destination and get a feel for what's happening there. I just grabbed this for some restaurant decision-making research about what drives people when they're choosing a restaurant. I think it's quite interesting in the context of VR about how many of these decision-making points are influenced by the metaverse. So price and word of mouth, price definitely can't do anything about, word of mouth maybe, but in terms of giving people an experience of it, in terms of demonstrating variety of menu, in terms of demonstrating popularity through a synchronous experience in a virtual space, in terms of improving reputation, in terms of even demonstrating the location. So is it a nice place to be? What's the outside area like? All of those things can be delivered through the metaverse experience. So instantly you start to see the breadth of problems that a dimensionalized internet can fix in terms of a decision-making process. I wanted also, part of what I'm going to talk about today is also the things you can actually do at the moment to start to learn and understand. So few things I'm going to show you now that we've built and other people have built. This is something we've created for a high-end Nordic furniture brand. It's a Metaverse and VR showroom. It has two parts to it. One part is products displayed as artworks, and the second part is a space where you can actually interact with the products and then put them into your own home and try them out. This particular brand has a very big following amongst architects in Japan, so we are using the space also as a way of doing product demonstrations virtually to architects who can't make it to trade shows, etc. Now, this company are not particularly tech savvy. They craft everything by hand. They're as old school as you can imagine. And yet they have a 3D model database ready to go. And that's how we sold it to them. We said, you have the 3D models, you have the building blocks of a virtual reality experience, so we can just take those and create this for you. So whether you're in kind of hotel trade, restaurant trade, if you are designing a new project, if you have a bank of existing 3D assets, you can very quickly create an interactive VR space which can work as a test ground for what you might do in the future. Maybe you use it for training, maybe you use it to start to understand how you might improve, say, check-in or booking processes. Maybe you use it as a design tool for a future project. But it is surprisingly easy to unlock the value of those 3D assets that most design businesses will already have and move them into a virtual space. And if you don't have 3D models, absolutely no problem. So this is model building in a hotel room using standard technology that's available on most kind of high-end iPhones now, with an app called Polycam, which basically will create an instant 3D model of whatever space you're in, which you can then edit, design, interact with, transfer into virtual reality. Now let's say you wanted to train staff on a new space you've created in a hotel or a restaurant. Rather than having to do it now via Zoom or via flat 2D, you could actually build a space relatively cheaply, relatively quickly, and let people then move into it and interact within it. So even if you don't have access to 3D models within your business, there are ways you can actually very quickly and cheaply start to build up your own 3D database and then be able to create experimental interactive experiences from it. Something else we've done is extending digital real-world products into digital ones. In this case, wallpapers, which then are animated and reimagined for the Metaverse. In this case, we also actually have them available as limited edition NFTs, which go to high-value customers. I saw your face there, sir. I spotted that. It's an experiment. I'm not saying don't invest in NFTs, but experiment with the space, learn the technology, because it will benefit you at some point. But yeah, it's right to be cynical. I totally agree. But you should start asking yourself, what digital product or what digital experience can you create from your real world assets? There's a hotel in Manchester, Leven, who are really pushing the boundary in terms of what you can do in terms of reimagining hospitality in virtual worlds. They go really far. They basically create these incredible, fully kind of conceptual experiences that don't relate at all to the actual hotel, apart from having the same kind of brand feel. But there are, if you are involved in hotel, restaurant, and you want to start creating a virtual replica of it, a digital twin, then start to think about how you could actually add more to it than just replicating what's in the real world, but actually how can you add new experiences, new creativity. This is actually probably my favourite or biggest potential, I think, for what we can do with kind of AR and VR in the future. So these demos have all come from a team at Shopify who are really pushing the boundaries in terms of how shopping will develop in the future. And it's all about augmentation, so static things becoming interactive. And I think the potential here for the hospitality trade is absolutely huge. Whether you're, if you're in a restaurant, like imagining how can you bring the wine list to life? So rather than one sommelier comes up, that actually you can have really rich experiences learning about the source of the grapes, etc. All the things the sommelier would tell you. The same for the menus. If you are running a hotel, then it's utterly feasible that within I'd say 18 months, 2 years, you could give every customer a virtual butler who's generated by AI, driven by AI, and available in your room when you put on augmented goggles. That technology will be available 18 months to 2 years. So this idea of kind of augmenting and enriching experiences is one which I think has the huge potential for almost every business, and is worth just experimenting with. So if you're in a position where someone says, all right, let's start planning our 2024 kind of NPD, just put in there like, yes, let's make one of them augmented as an experiment and see where we go with it, and start to learn about the technologies and how people experience it. So kind of going from what you can do now, I'm also going to just leap a bit into, let's say, about 10 years into the future. And that future is already here. It's just not here for everyone. And it kind of goes back to gaming. So there's some quite amazing statistics within the gaming world, which is of all global gaming revenues. And I remember a time when gaming, I used to work a lot with film companies in the 2000s, Universal Pictures, etc. They decried gaming as this little niche thing that would never take off. It was just nerds doing it. It's now bigger than the global film industry, and it's growing incredibly fast, while the film industry is not. And yet 40% of all global gaming revenues come from virtual goods. Has anyone here ever bought a virtual good? Yes, very good. Would you ever buy virtual goods? Everyone has virtual music. I mean, giving up CDs and LPs felt kind of hard, right? But now we do. So this kind of mindset of buying virtual goods, it is harder if you're kind of, 30, 35 plus, it's harder to understand. If you're sub 30s, people are already kind of in this world engaged with it. Just to give you some context, Fortnite is a bigger fashion brand in terms of revenue than Burberry and Prada. They're selling a lot of virtual fashion, a lot of virtual sneakers, a lot of skins for people. And so where that kind of develops in the next 10 years is, if you buy into the idea that we will be living in kind of more mixed reality worlds, that we will be using hardware that allows us to interact with augmented and virtual spaces, which I totally buy into, and hopefully I've persuaded you today. And if you buy into the idea that there will be this technology hardware trigger that unlocks the space, then you also have to buy into the idea that there will be a new cohort of customers coming through in the next 5 to 10 years who will be utterly willing to spend money on virtual goods and see a value in them in a way which current kind of mainstream consumers don't. And this will change the kind of spaces where people are living. So, right now, the curated space for most people is social media. So they curate their Instagram feed, they curate their TikTok. Once you move into a world where there is a dimensionalized internet, that space will also become dimensionalized. So it will become more like a virtual hangout. So imagine a 3D TikTok or a 3D Instagram. And once those spaces become dimensionalized, they also then need to be filled with beautiful things to be curated with. So it won't just be the things that the person creates, but the style of the space, the furnishings, the activities, the events. And this starts to open up some really kind of, I think, fascinating opportunities about how brands can start to extend their activities from just being physical to being virtual, and also offering kind of mixed reality experiences. To give you some sense of the scale, so I've got to finish by 11, so just checking. Anyone here know Decentraland? It's one of the biggest metaverses. In context, it has about 50,000 users a day versus, let's say, Instagram, hundreds of millions users a day. But to give you some sense of the scale of it, so in Decentraland, they sell plots of land which have a physical size. And if you add them all up together, the whole world is about the same size as Dubai. And this is just one space, one metaverse. There are hundreds of these appearing, and there should be, because they will, there will be the MySpace of the metaverse at some point and the Facebook of the metaverse. All of this space, all of this real estate will become virtual hangouts, and all of those virtual hangouts will need some kind of form of design, some kind of form of curation. And this creates, I think, even within kind of hospitality world, some really fascinating opportunities. So you can start to think about, how do you extend your brand to new customers, build new revenue models, new creative opportunities. So if you are a brand in the hospitality space and you have a strong identity, maybe a strong design ethos, think about how in 5 to 10 years' time that brand could be extended from the physical world into the virtual world. So you start to offer some of the experiences, some of the same kind of brand identity in this virtual world. Obviously, people will not be going on holiday in the metaverse. they will not be eating food in the metaverse. But what they will be doing is looking for brands they like in the real world who can offer them similar experiences in the virtual world. The challenge will be, what is that creative journey? And I haven't got the answer here today. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you for free. But it will have to be solved in the next 5 to 10 years. And the brands that crack it will have a huge opportunity because they will suddenly extend their customer base from being local to being completely global. And they will extend their customer base into whole new categories as well. So I'm just going to finish up. Maybe we have time for a couple of minutes Q&A as well on 5 things you can do right now. Now I've put on this link here, superdwell.co/HRC 2023. I've put like a long list of resources to go and check out. But first thing I would say is invest a bit of time in the platforms and the technology which are listed on that link. Even something like, say, buy a MetaQuest 2. I mean, it's quite remarkable. You can buy this, I think, quite revolutionary technology, quite mind-blowing technology for about the same price as a kind of return train ticket within the UK at the moment. It's like maybe £300 you can pick one up now. Put it on, your mind will be blown about the potential within this space. Secondly, start following people. I wouldn't. Discord is a little bit of a kind of, I don't know, I find it quite Wild West if you're a newcomer. Twitter is absolutely fantastic for metaverse knowledge. I put a list of some of my favorite people on this same link. Just spend 30 minutes a day reading what they're saying, getting a feel for the new developments in the space, seeing what's being announced, and you'll soon start to kind of see patterns and see opportunities and just start to kind of get a feel for the jargon and what's happening. Thirdly, so Blender is the an open source 3D modeling tool, which is kind of the it's the key to everything within VR and the metaverse at the moment. I don't think it will be forever because particularly AI is taking over as a design tool. But if you want to start playing around in the space, getting to know Blender a bit and understanding basic 3D modeling is just kind of worthwhile doing. It's a bit like if you wanted to become, succeed in social media, you had to learn a bit about photo editing. Blender's kind of the same for the virtual world. It just gives you the ability to kind of make things look nice, make people impressed, basically. Fourthly, partner up. So people are incredibly willing to partner up and experiment and be helpful in this space. So if you have a traditional hospitality brand and you have an idea, just approach someone you find on Twitter and say, hey, could you help me build a concept for this? And I guarantee 90% of people will agree to help you because everyone is looking to learn and develop and no one quite knows where the whole space is going. So it's got the feel at the moment of kind of like the late 90s online where everyone was just like, well, let's just learn together and do things. And finally, come and ask me. So we're quite plugged into this space. We do a lot of kind of educational stuff as well as working with our clients, and I'm always happy to answer any questions, point you in the right direction, etc. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. I think, we're done just about on time.